Say it. Say it.
I'll do it. Everything you heard about me is true. I'm just a poor kid, born into nothing. Who's got something to prove? Like you.
I've seen stuff. The whole world, they treat us like we don't matter.
I'm on your side. There's some you in there, calling the shots.
You think you know what's best?
Yes. And today we will talk about the show that I have been hyped up about, the show I'm calling the show of the year. I could not go into spoiler details when I released my 1 through 4 episode breakdown of The Penguin because, HBO. But today I will be doing a full spoilerish breakdown review of the first episode of The Penguin. But I'm going to do it a little bit differently, and hopefully fucking Max, don't fucking pull me, okay? Don't pull me. I'm praising your show, but I want to do a little side by side with the person who talks about the decisions that they made in this first episode. And so I'm going to go through and give you my overall rating of the episode. And this episode for me is a 9 out of 10. This episode starts off strong. And I'm going to touch on some things where I told you there were some events and things like that I couldn't say in my review that kicked things off, where I said there's something in the first episode. I hinted towards a sledgehammer and a bit of comedic hijinks, which was in the first episode. But like I said, when I did my review, I had to put things kind of out of place because I did not want to give too much away. So this is a full spoiler breakdown. We hold no punches. We are going to break this puppy down this hour and 5 minutes. I am going to basically tell you how fucking fantastic this show is, and you should be watching it. But I want to use the HBO breakdown so that you guys can kind of see the scenes that I'm talking about, and hopefully I don't get fucking copyright claimed by HBO Max, which would be kind of redundant because, as I say, I did get a screener from them. So hopefully this goes smoothly, and I'm gonna try to break it up by pausing things and kind of giving my own thoughts of the scenes. But I thought I already gave you guys a review, so I'm going to give you the first episode breakdown, but with a review, while also the people who directed and wrote this explain the different things and thought process behind it, because I think this show and the writers and directors clearly show how much they enjoy this universe, how much they give a shit about this world with even just what they're saying. So I'm going to sit down really quick and we're going to look through this. It's a 6-minute thing. It might be a little bit longer, and then I'm going to give you my own thoughts, and then hopefully I'll be done. I have no clue how long this is going to take because it's only an hour episode, but I'll be here every day. Some episodes might be longer to detail. So let's go to inside the episode, which is something that HBO does with all of their shows, where they kind of tell you guys the reasonings behind certain things. So just to start off, I want to set the scene because this show immediately kicks off. It hits the ground running. And all the people bitching that there's no Batman, here you go. I got Batman right here. There he is. He's in the Penguin. Okay, so let's start off with the opening scene. We see Gotham in a shitty place. Oswald has had some diamonds. The sledgehammer I was telling you about, he is using. There's a hidden part in his wall where he keeps blackmail material clearly on like officials and things like that, but he also has a secret stash, things he's been skimming from the top. And there's an interesting conversation, which they won't go through the whole conversation, but they'll go through the event, and then I'll kind of backtrack and lead up to it. But they do show some of the clips, so I do want to show you some of the clips from this. So let's get an idea of what they were thinking. What were they thinking where they made this brilliant show?
Oswald Cobb, remember him?
What a little bitch.
See, so there is right here the setup. So let me just paint the picture for you guys. This is Alberto Falcone. This is the son of Carmine Falcone, who was killed in the Batman movie. He is now put in charge. And they give a short exposition about how he is a drug addict as the younger, because this is kind of like a mob story. So he is a drug addict, ill-equipped, the younger generation. He doesn't have charisma. He doesn't have respect. But the Penguin, being the Penguin, wants to manipulate the situation. So there's this conversation, and they're not going to show everything, which is why I chose to show this. They're just going to show what leads to the kickoff. But basically, Penguin goes into the story about how he knew this guy, and this guy was respected by everyone. He was like, when you went down the street, he remembered your name. I don't know how he remembered your name, but your shop needed money, he fucking give you money. Yeah, that kind of a thing. And so the son discerns that Penguin wants to be the guy to be remembered. He wants to be the guy who the people love, respect, and look up to. And now, I could tell you, because I've seen the other episodes, but we're going to just focus on episode 1. I could tell you that Penguin's ideals of what he wants to be versus what he's becoming are greatly at odds. But in a weird way, the Penguin in this universe, in the Matt Reeves Batman universe, is a person who sees himself as having a kind of code of honor, a code of ethics, a certain way that he does shit that in his mind separates him from all the other douchebags in this world. So you're going to see how he also has a very short temper. And you can only talk so much shit. And there's only so much you can get away with saying before the Penguin explodes. So this is the first scene. This is when I told you this show starts with a fucking bang. I literally mean this show starts with a bang. So he's with the son, Albert. Albert called him a bitch and said he won't be remembered. Now you're going to see what happened. What's up, Cage? So, let me tell you guys, I did not know what I was in for. I heard this was going to be an R-rated Batman universe thing. I did not know how far they were going to push it. And I had heard that in the opening of this show, to start things off, there was going to be dynamic things. This is literally the first, 10 minutes of the episode of an hour and 6-minute episode. This is the event. This is the jump off point to why we are getting things that are going to happen throughout this show. What the Penguin is a very manipulative, crafty sort of guy who's that slimy guy who's always got something cooking, right? And he's trying to do this thing covertly, and he tries to buddy up to the son. But after being disrespected, he loses his cool, and he shoots the next in line. Technically, his boss's son, who's supposed to be the boss, he fucking blows away in the first 10 minutes of the show. And this scene is so well acted, as you could see, by Colin Farrell because of the facial expressions. And I don't know if they're going to show it in this particular instance, but you see where his face changes, where he realized he fucked up. He fucked up bad. He was not planning on killing his son. He was going to do his normal, slimy, sleazy, worm his way into everything, and he lost his temper. And this is going to be a thing because I've seen the next 3 episodes, but we're only going to talk about episode 1 because that's the only one that's out. That's the one that just dropped. People have gotten a chance to see. So I'm not going to ruin anything, but I will say he has a personality to where he's prone to violence based off what he feels like a slight or a disrespect towards him. And this sets up a lot of things where you'll get to see how well his plans can go and how he puts himself into these situations to where he's literally got to get himself out of them. So this is the opening scene. He fucking shot his boss's son, the next in line, the person who was supposed to take over from his dead boss Carmine Falcone. These are the events that's going to start a whole bunch of shit. So that's our kickoff. And
when Lauren came in and she pitched what she wanted to do in the first episode, the Alberto thing was one of the first things that she pitched. Dylan and I were just like, that's it. That was a really, really brilliant stroke.
We wanted to get into Oz's psychology. We're planting seeds, that there's something a little bit more disturbing there. It was really important to make sure that you understood Oz and the man he further becomes because of who he is inside.
He tells the story about Rex Calabrese. Alberto looks at that and...
So there's a whole monologue he gives, and I want to, because they don't really play everything like I'm not going to do. I'm not going to go blow by blow from the episode, just the key highlights so you know why I like this episode so much. And once again, this is a 9 out of 10 episode if you're just curious for the rating. So there's a scene, and they're not going to show it, but he talks about a mob boss called Rex Calabrese, who was this well-respected mob boss that everybody knew and loved. He knew your name. If your family needed help, they give you money. It's a very Goodfellas, Soprano kind of thing. And when Rex Calabrese died, the city threw him a parade. Shops shut down. People came out in the streets. Literally, people gave this criminal, this gangster, this mobster flowers and respect, because even though he was a scumbag piece of shit, he still took care of the people. He took care of the people, the lower end people, the people who are in the streets, in the filth and the grime. And that got him respect. And when this younger douchebag, Alberto, hears this story, he basically calls Penguin a fucking joke. And he's like, you think people are going to have respect for you? You think people are going to remember you? They're just going to remember you as our little bitch. And then that's where he shoots the fucking shit out of this guy. And if there's more swearing and stuff in this, that's because we're fucking watching a fucking show about gangsters and mobsters. You know, forget about it. Anyways, I'm sorry, that was Donnie Brasco. Let's continue.
Does the one thing you should never do with Oz. He laughs at him.
They probably do share a similarity, Alberto and Oz, and that neither of them have been taken very seriously. Alberto doesn't see what might be encroaching from any particular side, which is a great weakness when you're living in the kind of worlds that Alberto would be inhabiting.
Alberto steps on that third rail, and when he's mocked for that, that's where you see the deep rage.
Look at his eyes, and this is something I wanted to point out because now I can break down and go into my legitimate how great this show is. First off, Bitchy watched this with me last night, and we were marveling at the fact that when you're watching this show, literally you could have put this show in the theaters, right? Just an hour long in the theater, maybe a little bit to give end credits or whatever. I would have fucking thought this was a movie. The way this show is shot, the cinematography, like here on the channel, when I review something I'm really passionate, I want to specifically show you guys what I'm talking about when I talk about where I rate stuff and why I rate it. This is some of the best acting paired with some of the best lighting and camera work I've ever seen. Just that one shot. And this is in the show. I mean, they're taking clips specifically, but this is in the show where you see the moment of when you know the character is going to do something. And it's like watching a train wreck for the audience because they put you in that uncomfortable mind state, right? Where we know something's going to happen. He knows he's going to do something, but the guy on the other end doesn't know he's going to do something, and you're waiting. And the thing that's interesting about the violence in this show is that sometimes the violence is set up, but from a lot of what I've seen, a lot of the violence just comes out of nowhere. Like when I was first watching this episode and I first heard this conversation, I thought maybe he'd beat the shit out of him or something like that. I did not expect him to pull out his gun and fucking shoot him like 5 times, so calmly too. It's not just the violence, but the way the character executes the violence that is also important when you're building upon this kind of scene. Like, look, we've got shit like The Sopranos, Goodfellas, things like that, right? And even the directors of those shows, they talk about it's not about how the violence is portrayed, but how you shoot it, how you film it, how you set the scene. That's what makes people remember these scenes. And for me, this is really memorable. Even Bitchy and I were drinking a little bit, and she was saying this morning she woke up and remembered everything we watched in this show, which means this show leaves an impact. And it's not just me. A lot of people who have seen the show or have had a chance to watch the first episode all say the same thing. It's one of the best premiere episodes for a show I've seen in years, because right away they show you they are not fucking around. Like, boom, they want you to know who Oz is. And don't get me wrong, they do soften him up a little bit, but the show never makes the mistake of trying to make the bad guy sympathetic. Like, I hate this thing they're doing now where, oh, the bad guy had a tough childhood, but then he gets together with the hero and then they become friends and he becomes. No. Some people are just evil. Some people are just greedy. Some people are evil, greedy pricks, and yeah, they're not like heartless devils or whatnot, you know. You'll see that in this show. But they're also the bad guy. And this show doesn't shy away from letting you know the Penguin is not a good guy. He is, you're going to see the show through his perspective, but he's not somebody you're supposed to root for. He's just, this is just his story, you know? And I like that. I think it takes a lot of talent if you can balance those things. Plus, Colin Farrell's fucking amazing.
And impulsiveness of Oz. Oz is basically recovering from what he's done to Alberto, really for the rest of the series.
This being the first scene of the show was important to us in that fact that it showed Oz doing something brash that he quickly regrets.
And this was the funny scene that I showed. So this is the scene where I told you there was a sledgehammer being there. I was trying to kind of sway things off so I leave some surprise. So after Penguin kills basically his new boss and has this old shit realization and he has to get rid of the body quickly, the way they frame and shoot this scene, so he's got Alberto's body like this, and then he's looking at the stairs, and they'll reveal it later. They call him Penguin because he walks with a limp, and when he walks, he kind of looks like a penguin. And it's like he's waddling, and so he realizes that the body is too fucking heavy, and just kind of chucks it down the stairs. And like, so this show is not only like violent and gritty, but there's a very dark, sick sense of humor in some of these scenes. He's like, fuck this. It's it's like this show in a lot of ways reminds me of those first seasons of The Sopranos. Like, and I'm a fucking huge fan of The Sopranos, but I compare this show more to like The Sopranos in the sense of how they balance the violence with the humor, but it's also very character driven. And Colin Farrell, if he doesn't win a fucking Emmy, I don't know. I don't understand. But let's continue.
Launches him into the story that we're going to watch in the series.
Hey! Like he pauses, and when you're watching the show, the pause is actually longer. They're actually intersplicing stuff in this commentary that I'm watching. But so he takes the body and he chucks it, and he just like has this realization, and he just stands there and he's like, And then he just walks out the stairs. It's so fucking hilarious. And this is what I mean. This is such a well-written show right from the jump. It's just like you could have a joke at a very serious scene that just shocked people and just have it fuck up the whole atmosphere. But they don't go for like, hee, it's funny, he just killed someone. It's situational humor like, I just killed someone. I'm by myself. I can't have anybody help me with the body. And he's just thinking, how the fuck am I going to do this? So now we meet one of my favorite characters, probably so far, besides the other character you'll see later, but Victor. And Victor is a kid, and this is the scene where he tries to hijack Oz's car. We're going to take a look. And like I said, I like playing these inside and maybe every week instead of just doing a breakdown of shit people are just going to say. I'm just going to watch this with you guys so I can agree or disagree with what they say. But it kind of gives a good insight into the thought process of the scene. And unlike Game of Thrones, D&D, everything they say makes sense when you're watching the scene and the clip that they show you and what they were thinking. So right here, Oz's car is being jacked. They did explain in the beginning of the show that there's a lot of looting, a lot of rioting. So Oz just fucking shot his boss. He's trying to fucking quickly recover and figure out what the fuck he's gonna do with his body. And at the last possible fucking second he goes outside, these 4 punk kids are robbing his car. So that's kind of where we pick up here.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to steal my shit. Please.
It wouldn't have been that much of a thing to just kill this kid, but Oz has a disability, and he sees this disability in Vic.
I think he hears it in the stutter, and Oz, with his leg, understands that Victor maybe hasn't been given a bunch of chances in life.
So this is the dynamic that is meant to soften up or give a kind of other side to Penguin, which I like, because they don't go into territory of trying to completely make the Penguin a sympathetic character. Just understand why he would take this kid in. So when we see Victor, he has a speech impediment. And so especially when he gets nervous or when he's in super intense situations, he'll start badly stuttering. And I don't know if they're going to show the scene, but it's a little bit later on where he's trying to decide whether or not he's going to kill a fucking 15-year-old kid. So make no mistake, Colin Farrell, like, Penguin is a bad guy. They don't shy away from that. Like, he's actively, like, weighing whether or not he's going to shoot this kid or beat him with a crowbar. And he starts to hear him stutter. And he realizes that this kid is stealing his hubcaps and that he's making these decisions because he was never given an opportunity, just like when he was a kid, he wasn't given an opportunity. So they're kind of connecting on this level where they both have things that maybe hold them back or make people underestimate who they are. And as you start to watch this show or you get into the other later episodes, you see that's a big thing for him. He has this thing where he feels like people who are underestimated or people who are looked down at are the most dangerous people. Because they're overlooked. They're seen as jokes. And I kind of like that. That's like a new, interesting approach to how you get somebody like this to make sense. Because there's a few points in this when I was like, you know what? He might be a scumbag, but he's not fucking wrong.
Wanted my car so badly. You can drive.
Oz is a very peculiar character, and Victor is our entree into who Oz is.
Aqua Paradise.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
And I just want to point something out. This is a lady writer who's writing this show. And I've done a bunch of reviews where it's like, oh, if you don't like this show, well, a female wrote the show, so you're sexist. No, this proves writing is writing. If you write a good show with good characters, you can have diversity. They're talking about 2 disabilities in this. Oz has a limp, and this kid stutters. And it's probably some kind of auditory or a sensory thing that's going on, because it's always when he's nervous. And it's tackled so mature. This is the kind of thing that comes along that I'd like people to take note. Like, this is what writing is. This is quality. This is good character development. Shit just doesn't happen. The chain of events makes sense. And I'm talking a little bit because I don't want to get fucking copyright claim, because they'll do that if I don't throw in my own commentary every now and then. Just in case you guys want to know. Anyways.
Really likes those air fresheners. And yet he also murdered the Falcone boss in the first 5 minutes of the show. And you can't quite put your finger on who this man is. And that's the point. That's the fun of it.
In that night, which would feel like this kind of pressure cooker, there would be a turn. The seed has been planted. Maybe Vic is not dead.
Well, whatever you need, whatever it is. Jesus, I need a chance.
His relationship with Oz evolves, and that's really more where you start to see who Victor is and how he kind of interacts with the world.
There you go. We have a relationship built.
And I love that. So they don't play the whole scene, and like I said, I'll fill in some of the blanks so I could give you my, like, this is probably one of my favorite scenes so far in the whole entire show. So you have this intense moment where Victor and Oswald are sitting there, and he's literally talking about in front of him that he's going to kill him. And the kid is stuttering, trying to save his own life. And he's like, I could help you, right? That kind of a thing. And Penguin's extraordinarily patient, like he understands. And he's like, how the fuck can you help me? He's like, what are you gonna do? He says this speech about how he's not useless. He just needs a chance. No one will give him an opportunity. And Penguin was recently talking about that a couple of scenes earlier. So he just happened to hit the right nerve. And also, Penguin is on a quest to do some fucking crazy shit where he's gonna need somebody who he owns, essentially, but somebody he can trust. Because the movies he's about to make is going to put him at odds with everybody. And even the most devious person needs that guy. They need that guy who's going to come in. And let me tell you, when we get to the end of the episode, Vic is that guy for this kid. And the thing I like about the actor, too, is that right away off of those scenes, when you see this actor and the way he's given his performance, there's something so endearing about his character. Like, first 5 seconds this character comes on screen, and even Bitchy, she's watching this with me, and she goes, oh shit, oh no, he's gonna kill him. And I go, I don't know. And she goes, oh my god. And then he starts like turning his back, and she goes, oh my god, he's gonna shoot him in the back or something. He picked up the crowbar. And Bitchy is very selective about her shows, especially she's not really much into gangster stuff, but she was sitting there on the edge of her seat, and I should have recorded some of the reaction she was giving because it was hilarious. But I could picture, because of how good this show is written, people like getting engaged. Like, you meet this sweet kid, and yeah, he's doing the wrong thing, but he seems like a good kid. And then you're just sitting there going, when? Because they set the Penguin up in the beginning of the show to show that he will kill someone and not think twice about it. And this is what I talk about when I talk about writing with smart, well-written setup, right? Good writing. It should keep you on the edge of your seat, okay? It should give you suspense and make you want to come back and see more. And that's what this is.
It's on status.
I got ambition.
Teacher, student, master, mentor.
Well, maybe it'll be useful keeping you around.
That's where the relationship really starts, is give me a shot.
Sophia.
Okay, so before we introduce one of my famous actress protagonists, but I'm just going to say one of my favorite female antagonists I think of all times. Now, keep in mind, she's not really going to have a chance to shine until later, and I was super vague on when you get to see her, but we get to see probably one of the most fascinating characters I think that has been put onto screen in Sophia Falcone. This is the daughter of Carmine Falcone, who was even mentioned in the Batman movie. She was locked up in Arkham for like 6 or 7 years. They're going to say it. She was locked up for a couple of years. She was accused of being a serial killer known as the Hangman. And so She just got out of Arkham Asylum. And now her and Oz have a very unique relationship for two main reasons. One, they are both treated with disrespect and seen as less than. And two, they both know that the other is full of shit. They both know each other, like they both know that each of them have angles and plays that they're making. And this is where the show becomes highly interesting because now you have two separate antagonists, both with their own agendas that kind of are the same thing. They want to gut this organization, grab what they deserve, they think they deserve. But in a weird way, there goes a line, but not really. Okay. They'll get into it later. Like I said, this isn't about the later episodes, but they do somewhat have the same goal. It's just a different end. And I have a feeling by the end of the series that's going to come into direct conflict. But I'd say about episode 2 or 3, you start to see where there's a fascination with each other. But she comes in and she's looking for her brother Antonio, who Penguin just fucking shot a couple of hours ago. And she knows he's full of shit.
Join us.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
When Kristen shows up,
Now, Kristen Milata, the first time I've ever seen Kristen, let me tell you my experience with this actress, okay? I saw her in 2 episodes of How I Met Your Mother, and she was the best out of that fucking finale. She was so loving and sweet and enduring. So when they casted her as what's supposed to be kind of psychotic, borderline super fucking crazy, but supposed to be intimidating, I said, no fucking way. There's no way she could pull that off. And I ate my words on the first episode. The way she switches from intense to soft and caring to having a conversation back to kind of crazy, this actress has so much range, it's ridiculous. I really would like to see what else she has been in because I feel like her talents are grossly overlooked. She is so good. She gives such a fucking great performance in just an introduction scene. The range, the emotions, the way she enters the room and you immediately feel uncomfortable. And then Colin Farrell playing off of that, having this nervous, like, oh shit, because he's telling a bullshit moment as she walks into the door to ask about what happened to her brother. I mean, this is writing, folks. This is why you watch The Sopranos, you watch The Wire, you watch good dramatic television. Like, this is chef's kiss. Beautiful. I can't praise this scene enough.
in the first episode, you feel that, wait, what's this? She's just completely upended everything. Oz is kind of barely holding all this together. It feels like he's going to get away with it. And then suddenly there's a force of nature that enters, and that is Sophia.
Like, look at that look. And the way the camera pans, but the way she tilts her head, she's got almost a serious look and then that half smile and those eyes like she's piercing fucking daggers through him. Like she is calling his bullshit out directly. And the wordplay in this scene. Now, they're not going to play the whole conversation. And like I said, I'm going to go through most of the scenes, but I'm not going to give you a fucking blow by blow. Watch the show is the point of this review. It's a great fucking show. It's probably going to be a show of the year. I'm not bullshitting. This is number 1 for me so far of this year. Like, this is my show. Like, I am so sad this is a limited series. But if it's perfection like this, I don't want them to fuck it up. I just let this be a one and done. Because the acting and the cinematography and the scenes like this are so perfect, I don't think you can capture this again. This is one of those shows you see that's like once in a lifetime. It's just lightning in a bottle and everybody just gets it right. The directors, the writers, the actors, everybody's on their A++ game. And this scene is a direct comparison to what I mean when I talk about great television. Look at that look, the way she's holding a half smile, a kind of glare. She's putting on that phony, like, hey, how have you been? This is like a sparring dance. This is a chess match between these two people on whether or not he could sell this bullshit lie he's about to tell everybody. And everybody's believing it, but not her.
Sophia would show up basically over his shoulder. We wanted to make sure that she had the power there.
They have so much history between them, and they both know the score.
Sophia, I thought you were still at,
Arkham?
Yeah.
No, I've been rehabilitated.
Like, even the way she says that. Did you guys catch that? Like, I've been rehabilitated. Like, just everything about this moment is so compelling. It's so thrilling. It's just like you're waiting. You want to see, is she going to call him out there? They have a little scene after this, and I don't know if they show this in the inside of the episode, but they have a scene where they're in the diner and they're talking. And she is questioning him further. Like, after he leaves, they go out to eat, and she's grilling him further, and basically saying, I know you're full of shit, and you were the last person to see my brother, and I'm gonna get to the bottom of it one way or another. And she does not give a shit about the rules or people telling her to back off. She's fucking nuts. And it's not gonna be highlighted in this. I think it's episode 2 or 3, but you'll see this. She's quite crazy. And like Oz, she's a wild card. So she's not only disruptive to the crime family like Oz is, but also to Oz himself. She's the X factor. She's the one thing in this whole scheme that he has no control over. He doesn't know what she's going to do from moment to moment. And the actress plays that so fucking...
She comes out like a real taut wire, just a fuse ready to explode, but has to really like keep a lid on it.
Sophia's presence is more dangerous than it may have been if Alberto and Oz didn't play out the way it does. She is a threat. She's a potential obstacle between Oz and him realizing what he wants to realize in this world.
In the comic book lore, you don't want to start with Oz as the kingpin. You want to see how he becomes the kingpin. Sophia also wanting and having the same ambitions. How does she become a counterpoint and a real opposition to Oz?
Are you nervous, Oz?
Nervous?
I'd hate for you to feel nervous with me.
Like, the conversation is beautiful. The conversation is beautiful. So they don't give you a lot of setup or context, but they're in this restaurant and they're kind of dancing around the issue of what happened to her brother. And Bitchy pointed this out to me because I'm from New York, and they're using a lot of New York accents in the show, especially the Penguin. And he doesn't say nervous, he says nervous. Like, you know, that very almost Jersey. Yeah, it could even be Brooklyn, Bronx, but you get what I mean. Like, the certain things, especially when he does get nervous, you can hear the dialect come out a lot more. And man, it's just nostalgia for me, and because I came from the city, and yeah, it's just the way you see these two dancing around the issue, and they're making moves without actually making moves.
Oz really is a character that gets backed into situations and does his best work in figuring out how to save himself.
People underestimate you, but not me. I've always known you were capable of more.
Like, just, and I know I keep on stopping, and that's mainly YouTube, but just that scene, like, she's affirming that he is a player, he's dangerous, and she knows that, but she's also letting him know she's onto his shit, and she knows that there is something more, he is lying, and she's gonna fucking figure out what he's lying about and get to the bottom of it. And this is what I talk about because people ask me about my ratings and things like that. This is what I talk about and why this show right now is a 9. And it's only because I'm going through episode 1. But for me, this is almost perfect. The only thing, and I mentioned it before, was like no cops is kind of weird for all the shit going down. But, you know, I can look past stuff like that because the writing is so tight and good in this show. Like, just that moment. These little things that characters do that make sense to me, and the way the actors play off of each other, and just that tension you get from moment to moment, from scene to scene, when you don't know what one fucking character is going to do from one scene to the next, creates a tension while you're watching the show. And this is from beginning to end. When they jumpstart this episode with him killing her brother and then leading up to introducing her and this whole thing, you're sitting there on the edge of your seat wondering how the fuck is he going to get away with this, is pretty much the first episode.
By the time that he goes to visit his mom, and is really at that point decided to run away. She talks him out of that and says, like, no, you should use this to gain power.
She's ferociously involved. It's almost like she wants to give him her blood, and her blood.
So Frances Cobb is played by Deotry O'Connell, and this actress. Now, I will say in this episode, you only get a little bit, but as you go through the show, you're going to see more and more of her character and her influence on Oz and on the certain decisions and the paths that he chooses to take. And this is where it makes something kind of interesting, and why I make a lot of parallels to the Sopranos. Unlike Tony Soprano's mom, that degraded him and made him feel like shit his whole life, Oz's mom is actually supportive. She's always telling him, you are worth more, you can be the boss, you can take over. But she's supporting the wrong thing. Like, she's supporting her son being the most notorious criminal. And, like, I still haven't gotten much background on her story quite yet, but it makes you feel like they don't mention his father much, but I almost get the sense like his father was some kind of big gangster, because clearly the mother is very involved in this world. And I think it's kind of nice that you see a parental figure who's supportive of their kid. Granted, they're supportive of their kid murdering a bunch of people, but I think it's an interesting, unique take to see a mobster mom who is actually encouraging their son, because at this point he's gotten done having a conversation with Sophia and he's panicked because he knows the one person who can see through him is Sophia, and he doesn't want to get caught up in this shit. And he goes to his mom, and his mom's like super encouraging, and it threw me off because I thought they were going to do a Sopranos thing where the mother was going to be crazy, and don't get me wrong, she is nuts, but there's an interesting dynamic between the two of them where she's pushing him to reach this point in his career. She's like, the fucking city is yours. It is yours for the taking. And there's even a part, I don't know if they play it on here, but there's a part in the episode when she's like, I didn't raise a pussy boy. And I'm sitting there fucking laughing my ass off. She goes, you're going to fucking be a man and step up and show these people who you are. And I was like, oh, that's cute in a weird kind of sadistic way. So it's a really interesting look at a mother figure in a world where she knows exactly what he does. She knows who he is and all the terrible shit he does. She's probably the only person. And she doesn't care. She thinks that he can be whatever he wants to be, and it's super interesting. It's something I can honestly say I haven't seen done in very many shows.
Blood is very ferocious, and her blood is very fearless. When she sees any weakness in her son, she can barely stand it. Do you hear the words coming out of your mouth? Yeah. How weak they sound? It's just the two of them. So they have this strange little pact. What you did wasn't impulsive. It was instinctual.
Even though he would want to be revered and respected, he just needs his mom to say she loves him.
The city is meant to be yours, sweetheart. What are you going to do to get it?
That is like when, so I have a friend on the internet called Perp Minded. Go check out his channel. But he says that there's these things in the shows called quotables. All right, there are certain lines in shows that when people hear them, you just remember them. And I just want to replay that a little bit because that is such a fucking great line. And I got chills just hearing the way she puts it.
City is meant to be yours, sweetheart. What are you gonna do to get it?
Like, bro, like I got so amped. I was almost like, yeah, Penguin, go fucking murder a bunch more people, bro. Don't run away. The city is yours. What are you gonna do? Don't be a pussy boy. Go kill some more people. And that's the interesting thing about this show, because we're watching an antagonist, and realistically, we're not really supposed to be rooting for Penguin. But the writing is so good that you just go, you know what? Fuck these guys. They're all a bunch of pricks anyways. It's not like you're rooting against the good guy. You're rooting against even more scummier people in this world. And it's so interesting how they can drop a line like that and you get super hyped. Like, yeah, man, I want to see the Penguin go and do his thing. So, like, when you put in lines like that, I think it helps the audience get really invested and kind of like psyched. Like, yeah, man, go and fucking do it, you know?
He then designs a long shot way to see if he can navigate through all of these very dangerous kind of scenarios that he's going to have to navigate through.
So before we get to that scene right there, he has a scene with the great Clancy Brown, who is Salvatore Maroni, and he is the opposition. And now he killed Alberto in the beginning, and Alberto had this ring, and this ring was a ring that was stolen from the Maronis, and it was a show of disrespect. And he gives him back this ring, letting him know that he took care of things, because Salvatore's like, how'd you get this ring? Blah, blah, blah. And he goes, maybe I'm more useful than people give me credit for. Basically telling him he fucking killed his own boss to take the ring, and he wants to be on the inside, destroy his own organization, and go, buddy up with them. But I think he wants to kind of have both sides fighting each other. And this plays into this scene because now Sophie, being the crazy chick she is, there's a big chase scene, and he tries to get away from her men. He doesn't get away. She captures him. She's got him butt ass naked right now. So this is when I tell you she's crazy. Like, look at that look in her eyes. She goes from like perfectly sane to fucking nuts in a second. She's got him strapped naked to a chair, and she's got garrote wire, in between his armpit and the back of his arm, and they're squeezing up on it, going through the armpit to try to get information. And she's questioning about her brother, and I give him like praise, dude. I'd have told her where everything was. And they show an uncomfortable. When I said there was uncomfortable violence in this show, they show the wire going up through his fucking skin. It's very gnarly.
Start to understand how Oz dodges and weaves and gets through things, and he barely scrapes by the end of 101, and it felt very emblematic of
So at the end of this, that car that you saw, I just want to take it back a little bit right here.
gets through things, and he barely scrapes by the end of 101, and it felt very
So what Oz's plan is by the end is that he killed Alberto, and he cut off his finger to take the ring to make it look like somebody from Maroni and his group had found Alberto and killed him out of vengeance. And then Victor, he tells to put the body in a trunk and drive the fucking car onto the Falcone's property. And he timed it so when she was torturing him, the car comes fucking careening through, and they open the trunk, and the dead body of her brother is in there with the words scratched in the car, payback. And now there's a funny scene between him and Victor where he's like, you were supposed to cut off the head, and it makes more of a dramatic impact. And he's like, well, and he's explaining to Oz why he couldn't cut off the guy's head. And this is what I'm talking about, where there's a lot of dark humor in this show. But he basically goes and he's like explaining why he couldn't cut this guy's head off, which is fucking hilarious. But it still has the attendant effect. So now you see, through very quick thinking and literally split-second planning, he has engineered a war between Salvador and Falcone. And he started a bunch of shit between the two factions, and he's positioned himself within both groups to make it look like he's helping them out. So you're starting to, even in the first episode, kind of get a clear idea of what Penguin's plan is, which is to start this war between the two families, hopefully get them to kill each other, and then come in and grab the power for himself, which I know is generic and pretty much every other plan, but just style is what it's all about, right? Like, how does the plan unfold? And so far, and you'll see when you get to later episodes, the way Penguin executes stuff is what sets him apart from these other different shows that I watch. but the way that he just had him in the trunk like that, and it's so fucking brutal when they show the body and what happened to his brother.
Emblematic of Oz as a character.
So that was the first Inside the Episode to episode 1 of The Penguin. And now I want to kind of give a brief idea of my thoughts and everything. So what do I think? It's fucking fantastic episode. This is what a pilot is designed to do. They set up the players, they set up the game, they set up your main character you're following, what the stakes are. And this show kind of hits the ground running. I've heard people say this is a slow show. I've seen the first 4 episodes, and honestly, I have no clue what people are talking about. Right from the start, this show literally starts with him making this big, impactful move by killing the next in line in his organization out of impulse. And it just keeps going from there. And every time, like a good show, you think the character has a one-up. There's something that they can't control. There's something on the outside that forces them to readjust their plan or try to dodge these things. And as I said, the only thing that really throws me off, my only negative with the show is the lack of police presence. I don't even need the Batman. It's just there's not a lot of cops, and I get it. They explain it a little bit in the beginning. There's rioting and looting going on, so the police can't be everywhere. I would just like to have some of those outside stakes. I think that with any crime drama, and especially they're going for a very Sopranos, Godfather kind of vibe, you always need law enforcement. I mean, look at The Sopranos, right? In season 2 of The Sopranos, the main antagonist of that, besides Pussy being a rat, spoilers if you've not seen the greatest show on television, there's the FBI bugging Tony Soprano's house. And that's kind of always a looming threat in the background. And I wish that they would have done something a little bit like that here. Like there's somebody investigating things, or the police are checking these things out, right? That makes them have to be super careful. And like it's like, oh shit, how is he going to like get rid of this person when he's got the police following him? Like they don't do any of that. Even in the show I'll be reviewing next, The Tulsa King, there's always the police presence. So you got people that your main person you're following is going up against, but the police add that barrier. Like they don't feel invincible. Like oh my god, what are they gonna do? They got the cops following him. He can't go and like threaten this guy because he's got 2 people tailing him. It's just little stuff like that that is my only negative, and why it's not a perfect 10 for me is because I think this is an exceptionally beautifully well-crafted show, but I would have liked to seen just a bit more realism in the way that they capture these things. And for me to have only that one negative, it says a lot about not only the writing but the acting of the show, and how they do capture a lot of the things that I do like about these kinds of shows. I do have that sense of tension though every time he's in the room with somebody or when he's interacting with the gangsters, and there's that levity and little bits of comedy in there that aren't forced, but they feel natural to the scene. And that's what I mean when I talk about good writing, right? Like my biggest complaint with Marvel and what people don't get is the comedy that Marvel interjects in there feels like it stops the scene. It's almost like the movie or the show stops for a gag. And it's like, yeah, that's funny, but you just killed any tension or stakes or emotional drama that your scene was setting up. And you can do that, but it's very hard to do, and you have to be very good at those kinds of things. Where this show has that humor, but it's very dark and it's very bleak. It's like little things, like he talks about after they just kill the guy, and he literally has the guy in the trunk, and he's there with the kid, and they're talking. He got him some cheeseburgers, and he only got 1 pickle, and the kid got 2 pickles, and he's like, "You want my pickle?" He goes, "No, I don't want your pickle that your fucking mouth has been on." He goes, "I just want 2 pickles. I said extra pickles." Like it's little things like that where you could go, That's clever, right? But the scene is still taken seriously. The shit that's going on is still giving a chance to breathe so that you can keep the audience invested in the scene and still on their toes, because you go from that to like them realizing that they're being followed and they got to ditch their car. It's just like little things that I feel like are so easy, but in modern writing they just don't know how to do it, and I can't understand why. And this show is a prime example of excellent fucking writing. This is some of the tightest, just everything makes sense, and there's very few things I can call out as being stupid or unnecessary. And I'll be honest, it's a breath of fresh air. I don't always like to be angry, surprise. And it's so refreshing to see a show that can balance heavy themes and put a little bit of comedy in there, but have you stuck in a dramatic situation, and they know how to balance this shit out well. So, what do I think of this show? If you are not watching The Penguin, you need to watch The Penguin. If you need to sail the high seas, I'm pretty sure it's out there somewhere. But this is a good reason, besides the new Dune show that's coming out, to take a look at HBO. I think they have a real hit on their hands here. This, to me, honestly, is better than most of the season 2 of House of Dragons. Like, I was not happy with the season at all, and that is super surprising. So now, to wrap things up, because as I said, this is episode 1. There's a lot more stuff to go over in the next episode, but this is just kind of our setup, get us used to the world. I want to give you guys a little sneak peek. I'm going to have to pause it and talk about some things so that YouTube doesn't get bitchy. But I want to show you guys what you can expect coming up in the season for The Penguin and why you should be watching this show. So this is in the weeks ahead, and we're going to take a look at what we can expect to see from the next couple of episodes.
I've given you everything.
Yeah, you have.
Say you'll do it. You mean it. Because you love me. Say it.
Like, look at this acting. Just look at the acting. Like, this show is such a showcase on acting, and I'm going to pause this and talk every now and again because, YouTube. But, like, I just want to highlight, like, fuck, the acting in this is so good.
Say it.
I'll do it.
Now, I can't tell you specifically. I know that scene, and like I said, I've seen the first 4 episodes, but this is just a taste. This isn't going to spoil anything for anyone. This is just what you can expect from the show.
Everything you heard about me is true. I'm just a poor kid, born into nothing. Dude's got something to prove. Like you. I've seen stuff.
And I just want to say, Victor is one of the best crafted character sidekicks I've seen in a long time. And I think this gets really interesting because he is our insight into this crime world. And you're going to start to see what it's like. Like, how far is he willing to go? Basically, the Penguin is corrupting this poor young kid, who is actually, as you go through this, he is the heart of this show. And I only seen up to 4, so I don't know what's going to happen to him, but I feel like they're setting some things up. I'm really hoping, like, this is supposed to lead into the Batman 2, and I'm hoping Vic makes it, man. I really am. Like, I'm new with you guys. Once we get to episode 4, everything is a surprise. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you, based on some of the stuff I've seen, oh boy, you're in for a ride.
The whole world, they treat us like we don't matter.
I'm on your side. There's only you in there, calling the shots.
Now, as you can see, and this is what I'm talking about with Christina Milano's acting. Just the range she goes through, like, her facial expressions are fucking top notch. To be able to be a sensitive kind of character who's very emotional and convey it with not just being violent, but being very steady in your actions and having kind of a bottleneck violence. She has this thing about her where she could go from 0 to 60 in an instant. And the actress plays on that so well.
You think you know what's best for me? You think you know what I need? My little helper. We had a deal. We look out for each other.
Just gonna have to trust me.
So if you guys don't know, she is in the first episode. She's a call girl, so to speak, and Penguin's love interest. And he has a bit of a connection. I'm not going to ruin it, but let's just say they come from the same kind of situation. So it's a very interesting dynamic.
Was it worth it? What you did to me?
You know what? I don't regret what I got.
Staying with our family comes at a cost.
And I just want to highlight this scene for a second. This is probably one of the greatest scenes to see what she is
Comes
like.
at a cost. All those years, he was watching. He knows this game better than you.
There's a storm coming.
Like the way that they frame and I said to people, hang in there for episode 3, but apparently episode 1 has gotten rave reviews, and I'm really great that people are going to stick around. But I'm telling you right now, there's something that happens in 3 where I can't wait to hear the discussion, because it's such a holy shit moment and something you don't see shows pull very often.
You got fight in you, Vic. I'm ready. We're taking back Gotham! They're gonna tell stories about us one day. Our names are gonna live forever.
Like, what can I say, man? That's what's coming up these weeks. And I gotta tell you, fucking buckle up, because this show doesn't let up. It doesn't let down. There's so much action and excitement, but there's a lot of good character studies. There's good moments. There's people you're gonna get attached to. There's things that are gonna happen. And I think by making the focus on 3 different characters that you can get invested to, there's a lot of the side characters, right? You have Clancy Brown, who's in prison right now. You have Carl Maloney, played by, I forget the dude's name, Matt Strong, but or Carl Falcone or something like that, played by Matt Strong. And you got these side characters who are interesting enough, just enough for you to want to know where they fit into everything. But you're mainly following these 3 characters and their different journeys as they go through this adventure. And it's really some of the best writing that I've seen in years for a television show. This is and I don't throw this out lightly, and I've made this comparison several times, but this is Sopranos level writing. This is like the first 5 or 6 seasons of The Sopranos. This is that tight, really good David Chase, suspenseful kind of writing. This is these people know exactly what this story is. They know where it's going. They got everything in mind. And I gotta say, this is one of my favorite shows so far of this year. Now, will I still be hyped? At least for the first 4 episodes. Spoilers, I'll tell you that. First 4 episodes, I'm gonna be on the hype train. Now, could this go downhill? Yes. Do I think it's gonna go downhill? No. I honestly think this is gonna be one of those shows that is gonna be talked about for a long time. And I'm actually glad that they did release this show in episodes. And the best part about this is when you get to the end of the episode, it caps off. You feel like you've watched a full episode. One thing Disney does that I fucking hate is they cut to black and they do the credit thing, right? Like, it feels like they cut to black in the middle of a scene. This very much leaves off at a specific spot or a conversation, and then they cut to black as they're talking or whatever, you know. They finish out the scene and they pull back and they shoot the shitty and then they do the little promo. And what it signifies to me is this is also made by people who know how to make fucking television. Like, they know exactly where to cut the story off to keep you just invested enough to want to tune in next week to find out what happens. But they also give you a full, satisfying episode of television where you don't feel like you got gypped and you got a full episode of TV. And I appreciate that. So this episode for me is a 9 out of 10. This is as close to perfection as I've seen on television so far, and I can't fucking wait to do more of these spoilers. And coming up, I'm going to do this kind of format where I do an inside the episode, which is hosted by HBO Max, their website or whatever, and you can go on there and check out behind the scenes and talks with the cast and crew and what they thought about the characters and the scenes and things like that. But I'm going to show those videos while giving my own commentary on that particular scene and my own thoughts as a viewer while they're explaining the show as the actors or writers or directors, because I think it'll be a fun little thing. And if you like this format, let me know. But the next episode is Sunday at 9. So I'm going to do Monday, probably in the afternoon before I go to work, but every Monday I'm going to do my episode breakdown until the end of this show. And it'll be under the DC Afternoons logo. I know this isn't the afternoon, this is more midday. I was a little bit later on this one because it was on a fucking Thursday, and I work Thursdays, and then Friday, you know, I have things to do in the morning, so, and it's payday, so it took me a little bit longer to get this up for you guys, but I want to now. I will watch the episode Sunday, and then on Monday afternoon, I will give you my full breakdown of the episode, and we'll talk about it. You guys in the comments can tell me what you're thinking of the show, or if you haven't watched it, you can catch up. You can watch this show on Amazon if you get HBO Max, or you can watch it on the HBO Max if you want to see it, or if you're a fan of the high seas. Not encouraging that, but I'm pretty sure if you want to, over the internet, you can find this show. But I would encourage you to support the people making this show, because I want them to realize how great this is. And the viewership for this show and the first episode is great. It's with critics, it's like at a 91%, and with people, it's like at an 84 or 90. They're pretty close. So I think this show is going to do fucking amazing. I think this is going to be like a breakout hit. And I saw this coming. I said it on the show. I said this show was going to blow up. So if it gets massive, I've been saying this leading up to it, and I said it on my non-spoiler review, which you can check out over the first 4 episodes. I said that when people see this, they're going to like it, because believe it or not, a lot of people like mob shit, and this is a mob story with a Batman character, and it's the best version you could possibly put out. This makes Gotham look like shit, and I'm a huge fan of Gotham, but this is like, Gotham was like Little League, and this is Major Leagues. This thing is shot like a movie. It's acted like a movie. This is like, I promise you, every episode you watch is like watching a movie, but in television. I mean, this show is doing what The Sopranos did all those years ago, where you get that cinematic feel as you're watching the show, and you're thinking to yourself, man, this right here could just be on the big screen. If the theaters released these and they said for one night they were showing the Penguin on a big screen, I'd fucking pay money. I would go out in my car right now, and I would go to my local cinema, and I would pay money to see this on the big screen, because just imagine how fucking epic this would look if you could watch this consecutively, all 8 episodes on the big screen. Oh my God. Like, HBO, get on that. What are you doing? But seriously, this show is everything. When they talk about they want to bring big screen experiences to streaming services, this is it. This is what a show like that could be. And I encourage you, everybody in my audience, everybody who watches this on a replay, I encourage you, please, please, please support this show. You will not be sorry. I can guarantee you 90% of people who watch this show will like it. off the first episode. Like, you heard me break down all the shit that happens. That's just episode 1. And that's just an hour and 6 minutes. This is an 8-episode limited series. And I promise you, there's more crazy shit to come. Just stay tuned. Hold on to your butts. This shit gets crazy. I promise you, this shit gets bananas. And I am in it. I'm here for the full ride, baby. I'm hoping when I get done with this, I could say, this is a 10 out of 10 show. This is what television is supposed to be like. So, I will be coming back to you guys for the Tulsa King Season 2, Episode 1. I'm going to probably do a quick recap of the first season in case you don't know what the Tulsa King is. It's written by Tyler Sheridan, who is the writer and director of the acclaimed Yellowstone. It stars Sylvester Stallone as the lead guy. It's become one of me and Bitchy's favorite shows, so I'll be bringing you a look at the Tulsa King episode by episode, and I'm going to be covering the Penguin as part of my DC Afternoons each and every episode. My next one will be Monday, sometime at noon. I'm hoping to get done, so the episode will premiere Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is 8 my time, and I will do the spoiler review the very next day, Monday at noon. I will break down and do another inside the episode, and we'll kind of go from there. But thank you everybody for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show like I do, and hopefully I will see more of you here as I break down and go in depth to the Penguin. Thank you very much, and as always, remember, there is only one rule here in the Fandom Zone: kneel before General Zod. And if you want some power, you gotta take it.